So I had a very interesting conversation last night with a friend of mine. We were out drinking, and we were talking about, I was telling him about some problems that I'm having in Japan with regard to my work, and and I don't need to go into details, but it's just simply that I'm not able to. I don't seem to be able to. People don't like me very much. Let me just put it that way. And I explained to him. He asked me to explain, and I explained what I'm doing, and then he explained to me something, and he's got a great way of sharing things about Japan. And he explained to me something, and when he finished, I actually literally said to him, I took a drink of my beer, and I said, you know what, Toshi, I can't succeed in Japan. And we went on to talk and talk and talk. And then this morning I was having breakfast, and I was talking to my wife, and we were waiting for the pancakes to flip over to cook. And I explained to her what our conversation was last night, and before I told her about what I said, Yumiko basically looked at me and she said, you know, Kurt, you can't succeed in Japan. She said exactly the same thing that I had said to Toshi the night before. And okay, here it is. I won't beg, egg it on anymore. Here's what he said. Basically, when it comes to work on YouTube and such, I'm pretty laid back and easygoing, and I'm not very confrontational, even though I take on confrontational things like atheism and I have my ideas about how young men should behave, and then I'm pretty vocal about those things, but I'm pretty careful to word things in such a way that, not to make people too pissed off. But I'm not like that in work. When someone's paying me money to do a job, I take it really, really seriously. I mean, I'm a very different person at work. I'm a no-nonsense guy who doesn't waste a single minute or second. I don't stay late at work. I just go home. But while I'm there, unless I really have to, I don't stay late. When I'm there, I am squeezing every ounce of my energy and my mental capacity towards the effort of making my employer a good return on the investment that they're having in hiring me. I really take it seriously. And so when a problem comes up and a challenge comes up and a decision has to be made, I give it long, serious consideration. I try to weigh the options. I try to look at what's been done before, and I try to come up with a plan. And once I've determined that that things are going to be done, I'll go into a meeting and I'll throw it out there, and I'll ask for people to shoot it down. And if no one can shoot it down in a way that is to my satisfaction, and especially if they can't offer an alternative, especially if the alternative that they offer sucks, or they just want to stick with the way that we're doing things now that isn't working. And I'm not talking about my current employer. None of this has to do with that. I'm talking about in general. This is my general way of operating. If that's the case, if they want to move forward, they just want to stay stuck in the mud, and they can't give me a good reason to say why my idea doesn't work, I attack, and I will go at it. I've had yelling matches in conference rooms with people, to try and break the deadlock, to say, this sucks, let's go forward and do it, and I've won, and it's worked. This has been a successful strategy for me in the United States. I'm very aggressive and confrontational, but I'm also willing to bend. If someone can, I had a good friend of mine, John Sauchek. I don't think he'll mind if I mention his name. Smart guy, very capable of taking me to the mat, and I'll scream uncle. If he can do that, because he and I used to work together. I respect John greatly, and he's an incredible thinker. And he's the kind of guy that it's amazing how he almost doesn't even, when he's at work, he can expend 20 minutes of his CPU on a task, and then spend the remaining and get an hour's worth of work out of that, and take it easy and not have to be stressed out. Whereas I have to be stressed out and cooperating the whole time. I love it. So I'll yield when I feel that there's a good case to be made that I should. Now, here in Japan, what I'm learning is that that's not the way you do things. You don't do it like that. Toshi explained to me last night that if you have an idea, if you want to make a change in the corporation or the organization of some sort, what you need to do is you need to first strengthen your bonds. You need to make friends with everybody that is going to play a part in the decision-making process. This is what this takes time. You have to come into the organization. You need to make friends. You need to be on everybody's good graces. And then he said, ideally, once that's established, you can then broach your idea. But that isn't even optimum. What's best of all is if the other people ask you for your thoughts. You know, your buddies, your chums, you're out drinking, you're doing things, everything's great, and someone, the boss or your superior or someone or a coworker says, you know, what do you think? Then this carefully laid out plan that you have, this strategy that you, this new paradigm shift that you want to bring to bear, you then explain it, and you don't explain it from the perspective of your own ideas. Now that's another thing that I do. I explain it from the perspective of this is logical because A and B make sense and proceed to C. Therefore, we must proceed with C at all expense. Go for it. That's not how you do it here. After you have the friends, you broach your idea in the language of addressing the objections that they may have to what you're going to say. So if you think that, for example, Mr. B is going to, or Miss C is going to object because of the XYZ reason or the ABC reason, you know, I mean, I'm very vague here. You know, you try to figure out why they might object. You have already have your proposal laid out in a way that addresses their concerns. There's no such thing as the elevator. What do they call it in the West? You know, the elevator. When you're going to give thank you. The elevator pitch, that's it. Yeah, the pitch and tone. Thank you, big old boat. The elevator pitch. There's no such thing as the elevator pitch in Japan, where you would find yourself in the elevator with the decision maker, the CEO, one of the running dogs in the organization, and in between floors 2 and floor 16, you've given them their pitch in less than 90 seconds. You can't do that here because you have to give the pitch in a way that addresses all of their concerns. In that way, they don't have to engage you in an argument. Japanese don't want to do that. They don't want to have this thing where I used to remember when I would sit in the conference rooms with my peers, my superiors, and my subordinates when I worked in the corporation. In America, we would throw ideas out and beat the living crap out of one another and beat the living crap out of our ideas to find out what was left standing in the end. You don't do that here. You don't want to do that, and I never see that happen in meetings in Japan. You never see the dog fights, or the taking off the gloves and going to bat. I mean, maybe it happens in some places. I've never seen it, and I've been in a lot of meetings in both corporations and schools and the like. Japanese people don't do that, but they do talk for a long time when they propose their ideas. I have noticed that. I mean, someone will have an idea, and they'll go on for 30 minutes in a meeting, and everybody will listen quietly as the person goes on, and then someone else will respond for another 20-minute response, and then in 20 minutes, people know about that. If you study Japanese culture, that's the way they do it. Someone talks for a long time, and then someone else talks for a long time, and then they open the floor for questions, and there's silence for a long, for a Western, interminably long time. And then finally, just as the person that was kind of speaking before that asked if there was any questions, just as they're going to give up, someone might come up with a question. You know, everybody's waiting, and the whole strategy prevents conflict. But let me get back to that secondary point of giving your proposition in the language of satisfying the concerns that the other people may have, so that they don't even have to ask you. They don't even have to call you to task. You might say to the other person, here's my idea, which I think will work, and you know that guy's worried. He's worried about profitability in the first quarter, maybe. And you say, here's my idea, and this is why I think it will work, because it will give us profitability within the first quarter. Now you already thought about what his objection is going to be, and he's got his attention, right? He's listening carefully. Oh, profitability in the first quarter. How are you going to solve that? And you've satisfied his need. Now you know that Miss A over here, Miss B over here, she's going to be worried about customer retention and turnover. She doesn't want any change to cause customers to become get antsy feet and have what do they call that? Basically turnover. Lose customers. Churn. That's the word. You don't want. She's worried about churn, customer churn, right? She's in charge of account management, for example. So after you've satisfied this guy's concerns about profitability in the first quarter, then you go on to say, and I also think that this idea will work because it will help to moderate or even eliminate churn by giving our existing customers a sense of stability in the long term. Even though there are changes coming in the short term, we'll have a proposition that will help them to see that we will be with them, guiding them and be with them through every step of the transition. And not only will we retain our existing customers, but we'll have more incentive to bring in new customers. You've just addressed Miss B's concerns as well. You've given your proposition, you've addressed the concerns of Mr. A, you've addressed the concerns of Mr. B. You proceed to do that with everybody in the room who is a decision maker, stakeholder and someone you think might be concerned about it. That's why Japanese people in meetings spend 30 minutes talking, because they've thought about it all ahead. A very, very mature, very, very adult way of thinking, very sophisticated in my mind. My level of respect for the Japanese was gone through the roof after I learned this from Toshi last night. And that's the way you do it. You go through it, and then you fall silent, and you wait for the objections. And if you've done your job well, there's likely not going to be too many objections, because you've covered all the bases. Fascinating. Fascinating. And 10 years in Japan, and I didn't know that. And I was given, in my current position, I was given a little bit of power, and a little bit of responsibility is probably the better word for it. And I went about it in just the way I would have gone about it in the States. I analyzed the problem, looked at the current method of addressing that problem, found where I identified where the weaknesses are, came up with a new solution, and being the person that had a little bit of authority, implemented it without even asking or even thinking about. I tried to give them, the people that are involved, an idea of what was happening, but I really went about it the wrong way. I didn't enlist anybody's friendship. I didn't address their concerns. I went with a headstrong method. I just went ahead and implemented, and no wonder it's not working. Because it's totally contrary to the way things are done here. And now I understand that I can't change. As much as I respect it and I admire the Japanese way of doing it, I can't do that. I'm not good. I'm not a politician. I can't. It takes a politician to do that. And I mean that in the most respectful manner. I'm incapable of cultivating I'm incapable of maintaining and cultivating the delicate relationships that are necessary to do that, and to cater to address the concerns in that manner, and especially in being able to implement change over the long haul that it takes to do that, because this process is a lot longer. I'm a dot-commer. I want change tomorrow. I want tomorrow's change yesterday, and I don't have the patience for it. So I think that I've realized that my potential for success in Japan is basically nil, just as I told Toshi, and just as my wife told me. I can't do it, and it doesn't mean that I'm a bad businessman, or that I'm not flexible. But I guess it is that I'm not flexible. I can't change. I can't. There's some things that I can't. There's a lot of things that I can't do, and I don't. Some people write to me and they keep telling me, "You can do it. You can do it." No, there are things that I know that I can't do. I can't do, and it's one of them. And I'm accepting that, and what I'm going to do now to rectify that is basically relinquish some of that control, and attempt to re-engage my coworkers in a way that enlists their friendship, and ask them to join me in participating in this decision-making process, and share the process and share the responsibility, because I know that they're eager to have that. I mean, they never wanted to give it up in the first place. It's because they really care. I really respect these people, even though I think that some things could be done a different way. I really do respect them greatly, and I know that their intentions are good. But they are operating. This is operating in a theater that a vastly different theater than anything I know. So I've got to back off a little bit. I have to realize that I will not be a successful businessman in Japan. That's okay. That's okay. Was never my game plan anyway to be a successful businessman anywhere. My only intent in this whole thing was to be a good man throughout the whole thing. To see to my wife and daughter's needs, to take care of my mom in her old age, to be a good brother, to be a good community member, to not lie, cheat, or steal, or eat too many fatty foods whenever I can avoid it, and to die having the world been a little bit better place than when I left it. And I can do that on minimum wage. My career goal, my loftiest career goal is dishwasher. The happiest job I've ever been in my life was dishwashing. I loved it when I was a dishwasher. I had lots of jobs in college. Loved being a dishwasher, and hopefully I can get back. I'm putting money aside. Hopefully I can get back to the point that I've got a little bit of an investment income coming in, and I can go back to scrubbing pots and pans, where in the back of a restaurant somewhere where I will basically be utterly ignored, alone to my thoughts, and to watch the bubbles burst and the time pass. Well, my mind can just be self-enclosed in its little world there, and then come out sometimes and share on the camera or whatever I may find out there. Thanks for joining me, friends. Hopefully I've been able to share a little bit with you about what I learned about the fascinating elements of Japanese culture. Toshi taught me more. Master Toshi taught me more last night. I'll try to get that stuff out as I can. I tried to take notes on the iPhone with Siri. We were talking, we were drinking. I was a little bit drunk. The noise of the bar. I was talking at Siri. I was actually taking notes of what he was telling me. It came out the most garbled mess of nonsense you can ever imagine. Imagine trying to speak, a drunkard trying to speak into a computerized voice dictation phone when the noises of a Japanese izakaya are all around. Fun stuff. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully some of you Westerners that might come to Japan might have a heads up on how to succeed in the Japanese workplace if you choose to undertake that goal. Take care. Bye bye.